7 days after the execution of Marine Sergeant Dongwu Park, the Galaxian Empire ceased to exist. The war that had begun with one broadcast ended with the complete collapse of an alien civilization that had ruled dozens of star systems for centuries. But the effects of those 7 days would ripple across the galaxy for generations to come. Admiral Kim Tae-young stood on the bridge of Seoul's Fury as it orbited the former Galaxian capital world. Below him, the planet's surface showed signs of massive change. Human construction crews worked alongside alien survivors to rebuild what the war had destroyed. New cities rose from the ashes of military installations designed for peaceful habitation rather than warfare. Admiral His communications officer announced, "We are receiving reports from all sectors. Galaxian military resistance has completely ceased. The last holdout forces have surrendered on Galax 9. All former Empire worlds are now under human protection." Kim nodded grimly. The speed of the collapse had surprised even him. The Galaxian Empire that had seemed so powerful just a week ago had crumbled like a house made of sand. Once their military was broken, once their leadership was eliminated, the entire structure of their civilization had simply fallen apart. "What is the status of civilian populations?" he asked. "Stable, sir. Human aid workers report that basic services have been restored to 90% of inhabited areas. Medical facilities are. Operational food distribution is proceeding normally. The refugee camps have been converted to temporary housing while permanent settlements are constructed." The transformation was remarkable. On worlds where human Marines had fought desperate battles against alien defenders, peace now reigned. Human engineers worked alongside Galaxian technicians to repair infrastructure. Human doctors treated patients regardless of species. Human teachers established schools where alien children could learn, alongside human instructors. Captain Yoon So-min watched the reconstruction efforts from her ship's observation deck. The UES Vengeance had been reassigned from combat operations to humanitarian support. Her crew now delivered supplies to refugee centers instead of torpedoes to enemy targets. The change in mission reflected the broader transformation taking place across former Galaxian space. Captain. Her executive officer observed, "The alien civilians seem remarkably accepting of human rule. They are not showing the resistance we expected from a conquered population." Yoon considered this. The Galaxians had ruled their empire through fear and oppression. When that rule collapsed, many of their subjects had actually welcomed human intervention. The humans offered something the Galaxian Empire never had: protection without oppression, security without slavery. "They have seen what we can do to their military," she replied. "They have also seen how we treat their wounded and feed their children. They understand that we came here to destroy a threat, not to conquer a people. The choice of how we are received is largely theirs." On the planet's surface, Major Cho Min-ho supervised the establishment of a new government complex. The building was designed using both human and Galaxian architectural principles. It would house a joint administration where both species could work together to govern the recovered worlds. Major Sergeant Kim Hae-won approached with a data pad. "The alien technical teams have finished analyzing our humanitarian aid distribution. The efficiency rate is 3 times higher than anything their previous government achieved." Min-ho was not surprised. Human logistics systems had been developed to supply military operations across interstellar distances. Feeding refugee populations was actually less challenging than maintaining combat fleets. The same organizational skills that had destroyed the Galaxian military were now healing the wounds. That war had created in orbit above another former Galaxian world commander. Park Jin-woo was conducting a very different kind of operation. His stealth ships were hunting down the last remnants of the alien military, scattered ships that had escaped. The main battles were still trying to reorganize for some kind of resistance. Contact acquired. His sensor officer reported, Single Galaxian corvette attempting to reach the outer system. Vessel appears to be carrying military personnel fleeing toward neutral space. Jin Woo studied the tactical display. The enemy ship was small and fast, but it carried some of the aliens who had participated in attacks on human colonies. Justice demanded that these war criminals face trial for their crimes. Signal. The corvette, he ordered. Standard surrender protocols. If they comply, we escort them to the nearest detention facility. If they refuse, we disable their ship and take them anyway. The Galaxian vessel tried to run. Its captain activated every speed. Enhancement the ship possessed, but human stealth vessels were faster. The corvette that had once terrorized human colonies was quickly surrounded by invisible enemies. They are attempting to activate their self-destruct system, his tactical officer announced. Should we intervene? Jin Woo thought for a moment. The aliens aboard that ship had chosen their fate when they decided to make war on humanity. But even war criminals deserved the chance to face justice rather than die in the vacuum of space. Beam aboard their command crew. He decided, leave the ship, but save the people. Our courts will decide their punishment, not their cowardice. The technology that could unmake matter at the quantum level could also transport living beings across the vacuum of space. Within minutes, the Galaxian war criminals found themselves in human custody, facing trial for their crimes against humanity, back on Earth. President Park Hyo-jin addressed the Galactic Council for the second time in a week. But this broadcast was very different from the first. Instead of threats, she spoke of hope. Instead of destruction, she offered cooperation. People of the galaxy, she began, 7 days ago, the Galaxian Empire committed an act of war against humanity. Today, that empire no longer exists. But this is not the end of our story together. It is the beginning of something better. The holographic display showed scenes from across former Galaxian space. Human medical teams treating alien patients. Human engineers working with local technicians. Human teachers instructing mixed classes of human and alien children. The transformation was remarkable, and it was happening everywhere. The worlds that once served the Galaxian Empire are now under human protection. The president continued. But we did not come as conquerors, we came as liberators. The people of these worlds are free to choose their own governments, to practice their own cultures, to live their own lives in peace. Ambassador Lee Dae-Yoon watched the alien delegates in the council chambers. Their reactions were mixed. Some species seemed relieved that the aggressive Galaxian Empire was gone. Others appeared nervous about human power. Still others were clearly calculating how to benefit from the new situation. Humanity makes the following offer to all civilized species, President Park announced. Those who seek peaceful cooperation will find willing partners. Those who choose trade over conflict will find profitable relationships. Those who prefer diplomacy to warfare will find reasonable negotiators. The display changed to show technical specifications for human technology. Medical devices that could heal previously incurable diseases. Agricultural systems that could triple. Crop yields, energy generators that produced no pollution. Transportation methods that could connect distant worlds. We are prepared to share these technologies with species that demonstrate peaceful intentions, the president explained. The galaxy is large enough for all of us to prosper together, but peaceful intentions must be genuine. Any species that threatens human colonies, attacks human ships, or harms human citizens will face the same fate as the Galaxian Empire. Several alien delegates exchanged glances. The message was clear. Humanity was offering cooperation to those who wanted it and destruction to those who chose conflict. The choice was entirely up to each individual species. The memorial service for Marine Sergeant Dong-woo Park will be held tomorrow on Earth, President Park announced. Representatives from any species are welcome to attend. He died defending human colonies, but his sacrifice has brought peace to dozens of worlds. His memory will be honored by both humans and aliens who now live in freedom. The broadcast ended, but its impact would last for decades. The galaxy had learned that humanity was not just another species to be pushed around. They possessed technology that could reshape matter itself. They had coordination that spanned vast distances. They had values that balanced mercy with justice. Most importantly, they had demonstrated that power without compassion was ultimately self-destructive. The Galaxian Empire had ruled through fear, and fallen in 7 days, humanity offered to rule through cooperation and build something that could last for millennia. Captain Yoon stood in the memorial garden they had built where Sergeant Dong-Wu had been executed. The gallows had been replaced, with a monument bearing his name and the names of every human who had died defending the colonies. Fresh flowers from Earth grew around the stone brought by ships that had once carried weapons of war. The inscription was simple, but powerful. Marine. Sergeant Dong-Wu Park gave his life defending freedom. His sacrifice brought peace to the galaxy. He will not be forgotten. Alien children played in the garden while their parents worked alongside human administrators to build a better future. The same spot where the Galaxian Empire had tried to terrorize humanity had become a symbol of hope for species cooperation. General Kang Soo-jin visited the memorial during her inspection of the reconstruction. By the end of the first day, the Galaxian Empire had lost 60% of their territory. By the end of the week, they would have no territory left. The human war machine moved through alien space like a force of nature, destroying everything military, while carefully preserving civilian lives. It was precision warfare on a scale the galaxy had never witnessed. General Kang Soo-jin stood on the command deck of the assault carrier Incheon's Wrath as it approached the Galaxian command world. This planet was different from their capital. It was where their military leaders made decisions, where their war plans were created, where the order to execute Dong-Wu Park had originated. General, her intelligence officer reported, the planet has the strongest defense grid we have encountered, multiple orbital platforms with overlapping fields of fire, surface-to-space missiles, and a planetary shield generator that can supposedly stop asteroid impacts. Kang studied the tactical displays. The Galaxians had learned from their earlier defeats. They had pulled back their remaining fleets to protect their most important worlds. They had upgraded their weapons with captured human technology. They had prepared for the final battle. It would not matter. Signal the fleet, she ordered. All ships assume attack positions, activate the new weapon systems. It's time to show the aliens what human engineering can really accomplish. The human task force was smaller than previous fleets, but it carried weapons that had been held in reserve. The Galaxians thought they understood human capabilities. Now they were about to learn. They had seen nothing yet. The orbital defense platforms opened fire first. Beams of coherent energy reached out. Across space toward the approaching human ships, each beam carried enough power to vaporize a small moon. The aliens had built these weapons using the best technology they could steal or reverse engineer. The beams struck human shields and simply disappeared. The exotic matter barriers that protected the human ships absorbed the energy and converted it to harmless radiation. What should have been a devastating barrage became nothing more than light show. Interesting, General Kang observed. They have improved their weapons significantly. Still not good enough. Launch the resonance torpedoes. The new weapons were unlike anything the humans had used before. Instead of explosive warheads, they carried devices that could manipulate matter. At the quantum level, each torpedo sought out the largest artificial structure in range and began to break down the molecular bonds that held it together. The first orbital platform simply came apart, its metal hull separated into component atoms that drifted away like dust. The massive weapons that had fired moments before became clouds of individual elements floating in space. The destruction was silent and absolute. "My God," whispered Commander Ji-hoon from his position on the bridge. "The platforms are just dissolving." One by one, the mighty defense network fell apart. The weapons that should have protected the command world became expanding clouds of basic matter. The Galaxians had built their defenses to stop conventional attacks. They had never imagined facing weapons that could unmake matter itself. The planetary shield generator activated. A shimmering barrier appeared around the world, deflecting the remaining human torpedoes. The shield was powerful enough to stop anything. Short of a supernova, the aliens had built it using technology from 12 different species. General Kang smiled. "Signal the Soul's Fury request Admiral Kim to demonstrate the new siege cannon." In orbit above the battle, Admiral Kim received the message. His dreadnought carried humanity's most advanced weapon, a device that had been developed in secret laboratories and tested in empty star systems. Now it would face its first real target. "Charging siege cannon," his weapons officer announced. "Power levels at maximum. All other systems switching to backup power." The weapon that emerged from the dreadnought's hull was beautiful and terrifying. A crystalline structure that seemed to bend light around itself. It gathered energy from the ship's reactor and focused it into something that had never existed before in nature. The beam that struck the planetary shield was not made of matter or energy. It was made of folded space itself. Where it touched the alien barrier, reality seemed. To crack the shield that could stop asteroids simply ceased to exist, along with a significant portion of the planet's upper atmosphere. "Shield is down," reported the tactical officer. "Massive atmospheric disturbance, but no casualties on the surface." The beam dissipated before reaching ground level. General Kang nodded approvingly. The siege cannon was designed to break defensive barriers, not massacre civilians. The humans could have built weapons to sterilize planets. Instead, they chose to build. "Tools for precise warfare, begin the assault," she ordered. "All drop ships launch marine companies to secure key installations. Remember the standing orders. Military targets only. Protect civilian populations at all costs. Lieutenant Commander." Ji-hoon led the first wave of Marines toward the planet's surface. His dropship shook as it entered the atmosphere. The Galaxians were firing everything they had surface to air, missiles, particle cannons, even nuclear warheads, but human shields absorbed the punishment and kept going. The landscape below looked like something from a nightmare. Black towers reached toward a red sky, while rivers of molten metal flowed between industrial complexes. This was where the Galaxian war machine had been built, where their plans for conquest had been made. 2 minutes to landing zone, his pilot announced. "I am picking up massive troop concentrations around the target area. The aliens have pulled back their best units to defend the command complex." Ji-hoon checked his weapon. The new plasma rifle was heavier than the old models, but it could punch through any armor the Galaxians possessed. His Marines were equipped with the latest human technology, power armor that could stop tank rounds, shields that could deflect energy weapons, sensors that could see through walls. The drop pods struck ground with tremendous force. The impact craters were still smoking when the doors blew open and human Marines poured out into the alien world. The gravity was heavier than Earth, which made movement harder, but the power armor compensated automatically. "Contact front," Sergeant Kim Hae-won called out. "Multiple Galaxian defensive positions, infantry and armor moving to surround us." The enemy forces looked more advanced than previous encounters. Their weapons crackled with stolen human technology. Their armor showed improvements based on captured equipment. They had learned from their defeats and adapted their tactics. It did not help them. The battle for the command complex was brief but vicious. The Galaxians fought with the desperation of creatures defending their last stronghold. They used every trick they had learned, every weapon they had developed, every tactical innovation they could imagine. The humans simply walked through their defenses like they were not there. Breach in the outer wall, reported Private Lee Soo-jin. Defensive towers are down. Main gate is secured. Ji-hoon led his squad through the smoking ruins of what had once been an impregnable fortress. The Galaxian defenders lay scattered around their positions. Their advanced weapons had proven useless against human shields. Their improved armor had been no match for human firepower in the depths of the complex they found. Their target, the Galaxian High Command, had built their headquarters deep underground, surrounded by meters of armor plating and energy barriers. They had thought themselves safe in their bunker. The human Marines used shaped charges to breach the final doors. The explosions echoed through the corridors like thunder. When the smoke cleared, Ji-hoon led his team into the chamber where the alien leadership cowered. The beings that had ordered Dongwoo Park's execution looked pathetic now gone. Was the arrogance they had displayed during the broadcast. These creatures who had ruled an empire spanning dozens of star systems were now reduced to begging for their lives. "Please," one of them said in broken human language, "we surrender. We did not know humans were so powerful. We thought you were weak. We were wrong. Please show mercy." Ji-hoon looked at the alien commander who had supervised the execution. The same creature who had smiled while a human Marine died now groveled before human soldiers. The irony was not lost on him. Sergeant Dong-woo. Park was a good Marine, Ji-hoon said quietly. He had a family waiting for him on Earth. He had friends who will never see him again. He had dreams of a peaceful galaxy where humans and aliens could coexist. "You took all of that away from him," the alien commander tried to speak, but Ji-hoon continued. "You broadcast his death across the galaxy. You wanted to terrorize human colonies. You wanted to break our will to fight. You succeeded in one thing. You showed the galaxy what happens when someone kills a human Marine in front of his brothers." The final shots of the war were fired in that underground bunker. The Galaxian High Command died, knowing their empire had been destroyed in revenge for one human soldier. Their last sight was human Marines carrying their fallen comrades' battle flag into the heart of their last stronghold. The Galaxian Empire was finished. The species that had ruled through fear and superior technology had been brought low by creatures they had dismissed as primitives. Their military was destroyed. Their territory occupied, their leadership dead. But the humans were already thinking beyond revenge. In orbit above the conquered world, General Kang was coordinating humanitarian aid for the surviving alien population. The same ships that had destroyed the Galaxian military now carried food, medicine, and supplies for the people they had orphaned. Signal All Task Force. While human fleets carved through Galaxian space like fire through dry grass, the leaders of Earth prepared to send a message to every alien civilization in the galaxy. The message would be simple, direct, and absolutely terrifying in its implications. Every species that had ever considered humans weak was about to learn otherwise. President Park Hyo-jin stood in the emergency command center deep beneath the Capitol building. Around her, the most powerful humans in the galaxy prepared for the most important broadcast in their species' history. This was not just about revenge for one Marine. This was about establishing humanity's place in the galactic order. "Madam President." Admiral Kim's voice crackled through the communication system. "Calax, Prime is secure. All orbital defenses are destroyed. Surface military installations are neutralized. The Galaxian home fleet has been eliminated. Total casualties on our side are 0. Similar reports flooded in from across the galaxy. Human fleets were systematically dismantling the Galaxian Empire world by world. The same aliens who had seemed so powerful just days before were being hunted to extinction by forces they could not match or understand. "Thank you, Admiral," the President replied. "Proceed to Phase 2 operations. Make sure civilian populations are protected and provide humanitarian aid where needed. The galaxy needs to see that we can be merciful as well as ruthless." She turned to her communication director. "Are we ready?" "For the broadcast." "Yes, Madam President, all alien communication networks have been accessed. We can reach every inhabited system in the galaxy simultaneously. The Calaxians built an impressive network. We are just borrowing it for this message." The holographic projectors activated. President Park found herself standing in a virtual representation of the Galactic Council chambers. Every alien delegation would see her as if she were actually present. The effect was designed to be as impressive as possible. "Attention, civilizations of the galaxy," she began. "I am President Park Hyo-jin of the United Human Colonies. 26 hours ago, the Calaxian Empire executed one of our soldiers on live broadcast. They did this to demonstrate their power and terrorize human worlds. They succeeded in demonstrating power, just not their own." The backdrop changed to show real-time footage from the battle for Calax Prime, the mighty orbital defense network that had protected the alien capital for centuries was now an expanding cloud of glowing debris. Space stations the size of cities had been reduced to scrap metal in minutes. Marine Sergeant Dong-Woo Park died with honor. The president continued, "He faced execution with courage and dignity. The same cannot be said for his killers who are now running for their lives across the galaxy. Those who participated in his murder will find no sanctuary. No hiding place will protect them. No distance will save them." Ambassador Lee. Da-Yun watched. From her position in the real Galactic Council chambers, the assembled alien delegates sat in stunned silence as the human president spoke. The spider-like archons chittered nervously among themselves. The crystalline zenthans pulsed with colors. That indicated extreme fear. Even the proud Drakmor warriors seemed subdued. The footage changed to show human fleets in action. Stealth ships appeared from nowhere to destroy Calaxian vessels. Orbital bombardment reduced military bases to craters. Drop pods fell like meteors as human marines took alien worlds. The scale and coordination of the attack was beyond anything the galaxy had ever witnessed. "Some of you may be wondering how this is possible," President Park said. "How can humans who barely left their home system just decades ago defeat the mighty Calaxian Empire so easily?" The answer is simple. We have been holding back. The display showed human weapons in action, plasma lances that could vaporize battleship armor, gravity bombs that crushed space stations like tin cans, nanite swarms that consumed metal faster than the eye could follow. Technology that seemed decades ahead of anything the aliens possessed. "Humanity prefers peaceful cooperation," the president explained. "We enjoy trade diplomacy and cultural exchange. We have no desire to conquer or dominate other species, but we are not weak, we are not defenseless, and we are not pacifists. When threatened, we respond with overwhelming force." An alien delegate stood up in the council chambers. It was Ambassador Zektar of the Hegemony Coalition, a powerful alliance of 12 species that considered themselves the galaxy's dominant power. The reptilian alien's voice carried across the chamber President Park. He said, "The hegemony demands an explanation for this unprovoked aggression against a sovereign empire. Your actions violate dozens of interstellar treaties and threaten the stability of civilized space." The president's expression did not change, but her voice carried a warning that made every alien in the chamber lean back in their seats. Ambassador Zektar, the execution of Sergeant Park, was an act of war. Everything that has happened since is the consequence of that act. The Calaxian Empire chose to murder a human soldier in front of his brothers and sisters. They chose to broadcast it across the galaxy. They chose war over diplomacy. Now they face the results of their choice. The footage changed again to show human humanitarian operations. On worlds where the military had been destroyed, human aid workers were distributing food and medicine to alien civilians. Human doctors treated wounded Calaxians, human engineers repaired damaged infrastructure. But let me be absolutely clear. The president continued, "Humanity does not wage war against innocent populations. We target only those who threaten us. The Calaxian people will not be harmed. Their children will not suffer for their leaders' mistakes. We can be your greatest ally or your worst nightmare. The choice is entirely yours." In the council chamber, Ambassador Zekatar sat down heavily. The threat was unmistakable. Any species that harmed humans would face complete military destruction, but their civilians would be protected. Afterward, it was a policy that demonstrated both overwhelming power and careful restraint. The hologram showed a tactical map of Calaxian space. Red markers indicated destroyed military installations. Yellow markers showed worlds under human occupation. Green markers indicated humanitarian aid stations. The Calaxian Empire was being methodically dismantled, but their people were being cared for. "The galaxy operates under certain rules," President Park explained. "The strong protect the weak. The advanced help the primitive. The many defend the few. But there is one rule that supersedes all others. Do not harm those under human protection. Do not threaten human colonies. Do not kill human soldiers." The display changed to show a memorial service for Sergeant Park. Human Marines in dress uniforms stood at attention while their fallen comrade was honored. The ceremony was broadcast across human space and had been watched by billions of people. Sergeant Park was 23 years old, the president said. He had a family who loved him. He had friends who will miss him. He had dreams of returning to Earth to see his nephew graduate from academy. He will never see any of those things because aliens decided to use his death as a political statement. The alien delegates in the council chamber looked uncomfortable. Some were realizing that humans were not just another species to be pushed around. Others were calculating how to avoid becoming targets themselves. The balance of power in the galaxy was shifting, and everyone knew it. "The Calaxian Empire has 48 hours to surrender completely," President Park announced. "Their military will be disbanded, their weapons will be confiscated, their leadership will be tried for war crimes. Any species that provides them aid or sanctuary will be considered hostile to humanity." Several alien delegates started talking at once, but the president's voice cut through the noise. "This is not a negotiation. This is not a request. This is a statement. Of fact, the Calaxian Empire is finished. Whether it ends through surrender or complete destruction is their choice. We recommend surrender." The broadcast ended, but the message was clear. Humanity had revealed weapons and capabilities that no one suspected. They had coordination that spanned the galaxy. They had resolve that would not bend or break. Most importantly, they had demonstrated that they could be both merciless to enemies and kind to innocents. Ambassador Lee Da-Yun stood up in the sudden silence that followed the president's message. She looked around the chamber at faces that showed fear, confusion, and in some cases, calculation. Every species present was trying to determine how this changed their relationship with humanity. The floor recognizes the human ambassador," the council moderator announced. Lee smiled, but like Admiral Kim's earlier expression, there was no warmth in it. "Thank you, moderator." The United Human Colonies would like to make one final statement. "The galaxy has learned something important about my species today. We are not the weakest link in civilized space. We have been the sleeping giant. Now we are awake. Any questions? Nobody had any questions." The message had been received loud and clear across the galaxy. Touch one human and face the consequences. The execution of Sergeant Dong-Woo Park had been intended to terrorize humanity. Instead, it had awakened something that would reshape the entire galactic civilization. From that day forward, no alien species would ever again underestimate the humans. Within 6 hours of Dong-Woo Park's execution, human fleets were striking Calaxian worlds across 1,000 light-years. The attacks came simultaneously, despite the vast distances involved. Each fleet knew exactly where to go and what to destroy. It was coordination on a scale that should have been impossible. Major Cho Min-ho felt the vibration through the hull of his dropship as it entered the atmosphere of Galactic 7. The mining world below held 50 million alien civilians and enough raw materials to supply a dozen star systems. It also held the Galaxian Third Fleet, the same ships that had bombarded human colonies for 3 months. 2 minutes to drop zone, his pilot announced. Galaxian air defense is lighting us up, but our shields are holding. Min-ho checked his weapon one final time. The plasma rifle was heavier than the old kinetic weapons, but it hit harder. His Marines were armed with the best equipment humanity could produce. Today, they would need every advantage they could get. Through the porthole, he could see the planet's surface rushing up to meet them. Galactic 7 was an ugly world with orange skies and purple vegetation. The alien cities looked like insects, nests, all curved walls and organic shapes. The Galaxians had built their civilization to match their appearance. Everything was alien and hostile. 30 seconds, the pilot called. Defense grid is trying to target us, but they cannot lock on. Our stealth systems are scrambling their sensors. The Yas drop began. Min-ho felt his stomach lurch as the pod separated from the transport ship around him. 40 Marines prepared for combat. Each one knew what they were here to do. The Galaxians had killed one of their own. Now it was time to collect payment. The pod struck ground with tremendous force, but the impact absorbers kept the Marines from being injured. The doors blew open and Min-ho led his squad into the alien world. The gravity was lighter than Earth, which made movement easier. The air was breathable, but smelled like sulfur and metal. Contact front. Sergeant Kim Hae-won called out, Galaxian infantry moving to surround our position. The enemy soldiers looked even more frightening up close. Their purple skin was covered in natural armor plates, and their weapons crackled with electrical energy. They moved with inhuman speed and precision, like a hive mind, controlling individual bodies. Min-ho aimed and fired. His plasma rifle sent a bolt of superheated gas across the battlefield. The Galaxian soldier simply evaporated, leaving nothing behind but a small crater. The alien weapons fired back, but human armor absorbed the energy without damage. These are not the same weapons they used at Colony 7, observed Private Lee Soo-jin. Our intelligence was wrong about their capabilities. Min-ho nodded as he took cover behind a fallen tree. Command has been holding back our best equipment too. The brass wanted to see what the aliens could do before showing our real weapons. The battle for the mining complex was brief but intense. The Galaxians fought with desperate courage, but their technology was simply outmatched. Human plasma weapons vaporized their fortifications. Human armor deflected their best shots. Human tactics adapted faster than alien commanders could respond. Within an hour, the Planetary Defense Center was in human hands. Min-ho stood in the control room looking at tactical displays that showed the entire surface. He could see Galaxian military bases scattered across 3 continents. Each one was marked as a priority target. Signal the fleet, he ordered. We have control of the defense grid. Request immediate orbital support for remaining military targets. The response came within minutes. Beams of coherent energy reached. Down from orbit, each beam was precisely targeted at military installations. The Galaxian army that had seemed so powerful just hours before was systematically destroyed from space. But Min-ho followed strict orders from Earth Command. Civilian areas were left untouched. Hospitals remained operational. Schools continued to function. The humans had come to destroy the Galaxian military, not to massacre innocents. Meanwhile, in space, Commander Park Jin-woo was hunting bigger prey. His stealth squadron had been tracking the Galaxian fleet that captured Dongwu for 3 days. The alien ships thought they were safe hiding near a gas giant on the edge of the system. They were wrong. Contact acquired, his sensor officer announced. 7 Calaxian, heavy cruisers and their flagship in formation around the fourth moon, standard defensive pattern, but they are not scanning for stealth ships. Jin Woo studied the tactical display. The enemy formation was textbook perfect for fighting conventional opponents. Unfortunately for them, humans did not fight conventional battles. The stealth ships could approach undetected and strike without warning. Signal all ships, he ordered. Attack pattern Delta 7. We take out their flagship first, then work our way through the escorts. No survivors. The human ships moved like ghosts through space. Their hulls absorbed sensor beams instead of reflecting them. Their engines produced no detectable emissions. Their weapons powered up in complete silence. The Calaxians had no idea death was approaching. The attack began without warning. Torpedoes materialized out of empty space and struck the Calaxian flagship. The massive vessel shuddered under the impact. Its shields flared and died. Its armor cracked, like an eggshell. Then secondary explosions began deep inside the hull. Flagship is breaking apart, reported his tactical officer. Massive hull breach on decks 7 through 15. Their reactor is going critical. The Calaxian flagship died in a ball of nuclear fire that lit up the gas giant's moons. The escort vessels scrambled to respond, but they were firing at targets they could not see. Human stealth ships struck from multiple directions at once, their weapons carved through alien. Holes like knives through paper one by one, the Calaxian vessels exploded. The space around the fourth moon filled with expanding clouds of debris and radioactive gas. The fleet that had captured and tortured Dongwu Park was being systematically annihilated by invisible enemies. The last Calaxian captain tried to surrender. His ship was crippled, and his crew was dying. He broadcast a message on all frequencies begging for mercy. His voice was translated into broken human language by alien. Computers, please, human ships, we yield, we surrender. Do not destroy us. We have families, we have children. Please show mercy. Jin Woo listened to the plea in silence. His crew waited for orders. The alien ship drifted helplessly in space, its weapons. Powered down, its shields collapsed. One word from him, and the enemy would live. One word, and the killing would stop. But Jin Woo remembered the broadcast. He remembered watching a good Marine die while aliens laughed. He remembered the rope around Dongwu's neck and the jeering crowd that celebrated human death. You should have thought of mercy, he replied. Before you put a rope around a human Marine, the last Calaxian ship died in silence, across the galaxy. Similar hunts were taking place. Human task forces struck with surgical precision at every Calaxian military installation. The aliens found themselves fighting enemies that seemed to appear from nowhere. Their advanced technology was useless against human stealth systems. Their superior numbers meant nothing when they could not find targets to shoot. The Calaxian Empire had ruled through fear and superior firepower. For centuries, they had conquered weaker species and enslaved entire worlds. They had never faced an enemy that could match their technology and exceed their ruthlessness. Every human fleet carried the same message. They had come to destroy the Calaxian military completely. No base would be left standing. No ship would escape destruction. No symbol of alien power would remain intact. But the humans were careful to protect civilians. Evacuation corridors were established for non-combatants. Medical aid was provided to alien wounded. Refugee camps were set up on neutral worlds. The message was clear. Humanity would destroy your military if you threatened them, but they would care for your people afterward. The same species that could vaporize entire fleets could also heal alien diseases and feed alien children. The Calaxian leadership finally understood their mistake. They had thought humans were weak because they showed mercy. They had been wrong. Human mercy was not weakness. It was choice. And when that choice was taken away, the results were terrifying. Within 12 hours of Dongwu's execution, the Galaxian Empire had lost half its military strength. Within 24 hours, they would lose everything. The hunt had begun, and it would not stop until every alien who participated in murdering a human Marine was dead. 50 seconds after Sergeant Dongwu Park stopped breathing, the impossible happened. The empty space around Calax Prime suddenly filled with human warships. 200 vessels appeared at once as if they had been waiting in some invisible dimension. For this exact moment, the Galaxian homeworld had never seen anything like it. Admiral Kim Tae-young stood on the bridge of the dreadnought Soul's Fury. The massive ship was the pride of the human fleet, 3 kilometers long and armed with weapons that could crack moons. Kim had been preparing for this moment since the broadcast began. He knew exactly what he was going to do. The Galaxian defense network was legendary. Orbital platforms surrounded their capital world like a ring of steel. Each platform carried enough firepower to destroy a small fleet. The aliens had spent centuries building these defenses. They bragged to other species that Calax Prime was unconquerable. No enemy had ever gotten within 1,000,000 kilometers of their home. World, that was about to change. Admiral. His communications officer called. "We are receiving hails from the Galaxian Defense Command. They want to know our intentions." Kim smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Open a channel broadcast on all frequencies. Military and civilian. I want every alien in this system to hear what I have to say." The channel opened. Kim stepped forward. His voice was calm and steady, like a teacher explaining a simple lesson to children. But every word carried the weight of human fury, people of Calax Prime. He began. 50 seconds ago, your government murdered one of our soldiers. Your leaders thought this would frighten us. They thought wrong. You killed Marine Sergeant Dongwu Park in front of his brothers and sisters. You broadcast his death across the galaxy. You wanted to send a message about your power. Today you learn about ours. The first human weapons fired as Kim spoke. Plasma lances reached out from the dreadnought. Each beam was brighter than a star and hot enough to melt battleship armor. The nearest defense platform simply vanished in a ball of superheated gas. The explosion was visible from the planet's surface. Your Marine fought with honor, Kim continued as more platforms died. He faced death. With courage, you killed him anyway. You thought this made you strong. Instead, it made you targets. Every human in the galaxy now knows your face. Every human fleet now has your coordinates. Every human weapon is aimed at your worlds. Captain Yoon. So, Min watched the battle from the UES Vengeance. Her ship was smaller than the dreadnought, but just as deadly. Her crew worked with smooth efficiency, targeting the defense platforms one by one. The aliens fired back, but their weapons could barely scratch human shields. Technology that had seemed advanced yesterday was now obsolete. The Galaxian platforms had shields that could stop asteroid impacts. The humans used gravity bombs that crushed space like paper. The aliens had particle cannons that could melt titanium. The humans had nanite swarms that ate through any metal faster than the eye could follow. "This is impossible," breathed Commander Park. Jin Woo from his stealth ship. "Our intelligence said the Galaxians had the strongest defenses in the galaxy." His tactical officer looked up from her console. "Sir, these defense platforms are using technology from 50 years ago. Our newest weapons are cutting through them like they are made of cardboard." Jin Woo nodded. "The brass has been holding back. They have been developing new weapons and not telling anyone about them. Smart. Keep your enemies guessing about your real capabilities. The battle was not really a battle, it was an execution. The humans had come prepared for war but found only targets. The Galaxian defense network that had protected their homeworld for centuries was reduced to scrap metal in 18 minutes. Every platform, every satellite, every armed station was destroyed. But the humans were not finished. The fleet split into attack formations. Some ships moved toward the planet to deal with surface installations. Others spread out to hunt down any Galaxian vessels that might try to escape. The rest began broadcasting a message that would reach every corner of the galaxy. "This is Admiral Kim Tae-young of the Human Colonial Fleet." The message began. "At 1400 hours, Universal Time, Calaxian forces executed Marine Sergeant Dong-woo Park in violation of every civilized law of war. They broadcast this murder to terrorize human colonies. Instead, they have awakened something that has been sleeping since we left Earth." The message showed footage of the burning defense platforms. The mighty ring of steel that had protected Calax Prime was now an expanding cloud of debris. Some pieces were large enough to see from the planet's surface. Burning fragments fell through the atmosphere like deadly shooting stars. The Calaxian Empire made a simple mistake, Kim continued. They thought humans were weak because we prefer diplomacy to war. They thought we were cowardly because we avoid unnecessary conflict. They thought wrong. We are not weak, we are restrained. We are not cowardly, we are careful. But when you murder one of our own, all restraint ends. On the planet's surface, panic was spreading. Calaxian civilians looked up at their darkening sky and saw the wreckage of their invincible defenses raining down like judgment. Their government had promised them safety. Their military had boasted of their strength. Now human ships hung in orbit like birds of prey. The planetary defense grid activated. Massive guns rose from hidden bunkers across the continents. Each weapon was the size of a city block and could fire projectiles into orbit. The Calaxians had built these guns to repel invasion fleets. They had never imagined facing an enemy like this. The guns fired. The projectiles streaked upward toward the human fleet. Each shell carried enough explosive power to level a mountain range. The Calaxians watching from below cheered as hundreds of projectiles filled the sky. Their weapons would surely drive off these human invaders. The projectiles struck human shields and simply vanished. The exotic matter that protected. Human warships absorbed kinetic energy and converted it to harmless light. The deadly shells that should have crippled the fleet created nothing more than brief flashes against invisible barriers. "Interesting," Admiral Kim observed. "Their planetary guns are more advanced than their orbital platforms. Still not good enough. Signal the fleet. Begin surface bombardment. Focus on military targets only. Avoid civilian areas." The human response was swift and precise. Orbital bombardment lances reached, down from the fleet. Each beam was carefully aimed at military installations, government buildings, command centers, weapons factories, spaceports. Everything that supported the Calaxian war machine was targeted, the planetary guns that had just fired. At the human fleet were the first to die. Beams of coherent energy struck each installation. The weapons that had taken decades to build were vaporized in seconds. Along with them died the Calaxian dream of defending their homeworld, Admiral his. Tactical officer reported, "We are detecting Calaxian fleet elements moving toward our position, multiple dreadnoughts and their escort vessels. They appear to be the ships that participated in the attack on Colony 7. Kim felt his anger spike. These were the ships that had captured Dong-woo. These were the aliens who had tortured and murdered a human marine in front of the galaxy. Now they were coming to defend their home world. It was almost too perfect. "Signal Captain Yoon and Commander. Park," he ordered. "I want those ships identified and tracked. Every vessel that participated in the colony. 7 attack is to be destroyed. No survivors, no quarter, no mercy." They wanted to send a message about killing humans. Today they receive our reply. The Calaxian fleet dropped out of hyperspace expecting to find their homeworld under siege by a small human force. Instead, they found 200 human warships waiting for them in perfect battle formation. The element of surprise that had served them so well at Colony 7 was now turned against them. The last thing the Calaxian fleet commander saw was the name painted on the side of Admiral Kim's dreadnought, Soul's Fury. Then human weapons spoke with a voice like thunder, and the Alien ships began to die. The battle for Calax Prime was over before it really began. But across the galaxy, similar scenes were playing out. Human fleets were dropping out of hyperspace above Calaxian worlds everywhere. The response that had started with one execution was spreading like wildfire through alien space. The Calaxians had wanted to demonstrate their power by killing one human. Instead, they had unleashed something that would destroy their entire civilization. The morning started like any other day across human space, but that was about to change forever. Every human colony, every space station, every military base would soon witness something that would burn itself into their memories and change the course of galactic history at exactly 2 in the afternoon. Universal time. Every screen in human territory flickered. The normal broadcasts stopped. The emergency alert system activated. But this was not from human command. This signal came from somewhere, else somewhere hostile. The screens showed a crude platform made of metal beams. Under a gray alien sky stood creatures that looked like walking nightmares. The Calaxians were tall and thin with purple skin that seemed to shimmer in their harsh sunlight. Their faces were angular with too many teeth and eyes that glowed yellow. They wore black armor that covered most of their bodies, but left their faces exposed so everyone could see them smile as they prepared to commit murder. On the platform stood a gallows, a simple wooden structure that had been built for one purpose. In the center of it all stood a human, a young man in the torn remains of a United States Marine uniform. His name was Sergeant Dongwu Park, and he was about to become the spark that would ignite a galactic war. Dongwu had been captured 3 weeks earlier during the defense of Colony 7. He had fought until his ammunition ran out, then fought with his knife, then fought with his bare hands, until the Calaxians overwhelmed him with numbers. They had kept him alive for this moment, this public execution that they thought would break human will to fight. The lead. Calaxian stepped forward. He was taller than the others and wore more decorations on his armor. When he spoke, his voice was translated by alien technology into broken human language that came through every speaker in human space. Humans of the galaxy. The alien commander began. You see before you one of your warriors. He fought against the great Calaxian Empire. He killed many of our soldiers with his primitive weapons and animal fury, but now he stands defeated, Captain Yoon. So Min watched from the bridge of the UES Vengeance. Her ship was patrolling the outer rim when the broadcast began. She had been reviewing supply reports when her communications officer suddenly stood up and pointed at the main screen. Now she stared in growing horror at what she was seeing. This human believed he could resist us. The Calaxian continued. He thought his species was strong. He was wrong. Your entire race is weak. You fight with emotion instead of logic. You care too much about individual lives. This makes you vulnerable. This makes you easy to defeat. On Earth, Admiral Kim Tae-young was in his office reviewing fleet positions when his aide burst through the door without knocking. The aide activated the wall screen and both men watched as the broadcast continued. Kim felt something cold settle in his stomach. He had known Dongwu Park. The young Marine had served under him 2 years ago. A good soldier, a good man. We give you one final chance, the alien said. Surrender now. Withdraw from all disputed territories. Accept Calaxian rule over your colonies. Do this and we will. Be merciful, refuse, and more of your warriors will die like this one. The Calaxian gestured to his soldiers. 2 of them grabbed Dongwu and forced him up the steps to the gallows platform. The young Marine never said a word, never begged, never showed fear. He kept his head high and his shoulders straight. Even with his hands bound behind his back, even facing death, he looked like what he was. A United States Marine President Park. Hyo-jin watched from her office in the Capitol building on Earth. She had been in an emergency meeting with her cabinet when the broadcast interrupted everything. Now she sat frozen, as she watched one of her citizens about to be murdered in front of the entire galaxy. Her hands were shaking, but her voice was steady when she finally spoke. "Get me Admiral Kim immediately," she said to her aide. "And contact every fleet commander we have. I want them all on standby." Back on the alien world, the Galaxian commander was still talking. He seemed to enjoy having the attention of the entire human race. He spoke about the superiority of his people, about their advanced technology, about their vast empire that stretched across multiple star systems. "Your species is young," he said. "You have barely left your home system. You do not understand the ways of galactic civilization. You think you can fight us with your crude weapons and your animal instincts? You are wrong. We have conquered 100 worlds. We have destroyed dozens of species who thought they could resist us." The noose was placed around Dongwu's neck. The rope was rough and thick, the kind used for heavy work, not executions, but it would serve its purpose. The young Marine looked directly into the camera. His eyes were calm and steady. He mouthed something that the microphones could not pick up, but every human who saw it understood. Semper Fi, always faithful, the motto of the United States Marine Corps, words that every Marine lived by and, if necessary, died by. Colonel Lee J. Ho watched from his command bunker on Luna Base. He had 300 Marines under his command, and every single one of them was staring at the screens in horrified silence. Lee himself was a veteran of the border wars. He had seen combat, he had lost friends. But this was different. This was cold-blooded murder broadcast for political effect. "Your Marine fought well," the Galaxian admitted. "He killed 47 of our soldiers before we captured him. He wounded twice that number. His weapon was primitive, but his skill was impressive. For a human, but skill without wisdom is useless. Courage without intelligence leads only to death." The alien raised his hand. The soldiers at the gallows prepared to carry out the execution. Across human space, millions of people held their breath. Children were shielded from the screens, but adults watched with growing rage. They watched as one of their own faced death with dignity, while aliens mocked his sacrifice. "This is the fate of all who resist. The Galaxian Empire," the commander announced. "Death swift, certain final. Your governments will now see reason. They will surrender. They will accept our terms. They will—" He never finished the sentence. The trapdoor opened. Dongwu Park fell. The rope went tight. His body jerked once, then went still. The broadcast continued for another 30 seconds, showing the Marine's body hanging motionless, while Galaxian soldiers cheered and laughed. Then the signal ended. The screens went back to normal programming. But nothing would ever be normal again. The Galaxians had just made the biggest mistake in the history of their empire. They had killed a human in front of other humans. They had done it slowly, deliberately, cruelly. They had broadcast it across the galaxy, expecting fear. Instead, they got something much more dangerous. They got human rage. Captain Yoon stood slowly from her command chair. Her hands were steady now. Her voice was calm when she spoke to her crew. "Battle stations," she said. "All hands to battle stations, signal the fleet. We are going to war." Similar scenes played out across human space. Admirals called for full mobilization. Presidents declared states of emergency. Generals activated reserves that had been sleeping. For decades, the entire human military machine began to move with purpose and direction. The Galaxians thought they had sent a message about power and dominance. Instead, they had sent an invitation to their own destruction. They had 49 seconds to enjoy their victory. After that, every planet they owned would burn.